we just had a whole situation. I got shut down. I don't know. It gave me a coda error where it was something wrong with the audio. I don't know what happened, but it just shut down. So I'm just gonna pick up where I left off at. Everything's still gravy. So I was just talking about the situation with the guy out of Texas. He wound up going to a restaurant establishment, and he was he proceeded to rob everybody in there. I think it was like two or three families in there, and he also was robbing the people who was running the store, the restaurant. And like I was saying, man, there had to be a terrifying, a traumatic event. 'Cause like I was saying, I've been robbed before, and there's nothing you really can do unless you really to just risk your life and kind of surrender your life because it ain't like you going at it with somebody with the hands and feet. You going at it with somebody with a firearm that in a quick flick of a finger, you could be out of there or you could be seriously injured. So, he was going from table to table robbing people. I think he ran up to the register and, when he was about to go to another person, it was a Hispanic gentleman that jumped up and drew his firearm and fired. Like I said, I thought it was one shot, but I think he continued to fire and, hit the dude and put him down. He put him down. And it was like, man, he didn't get charged with the crime because I think they was found that was done in self-defense because like I was saying, the guy, he was actually in like he was he was robbing them. He was robbing them. He was in the act. He was in the act of robbing them, and the guy wound up firing his firearm and killing the guy. And then his mom, she came out and she was saying that, he didn't have to kill my son. He didn't have to continue shooting him. And I was thinking to myself, like, if there ever was a time to shoot somebody down, getting robbed at gunpoint would be a time that you shoot. And like, do you stop shooting? Like, I myself, I wouldn't stop shooting until I was for sure that the threat was neutralized, and I might wind up just emptying my whole clip. Empty out my gun because I don't want him to return fire because it's not just me, it's also my children, my wife involved in the incident. So it was like, what do you mean he didn't have to? Like, what didn't have to happen was your son didn't have to come in there and rob that establishment with everybody in it, putting everybody's life in danger. But I don't think she seen that. All she seen was her baby. And that's what brings me to the situations like when I was thinking about the track incident, I thought about like anybody would defend their child. Anybody would come to the defense of their child and stand up for their child or try to see their child through, especially if you see your kid in trouble. That's the love of your life. And most people, their children are the love of their life. So it's like you do anything you can to make their life better or easier. And I can even remember when I was getting in trouble. Who was there? My mama. Right there with me, defending me, coming to court with me, trying to get the judge and the courts to go lenient on me, writing in letters, trying to get people from the community to sign a petition, being a character witness, doing what she could to support me. So when I looked at it from that point of view, I said to myself, are her parents wrong? Because that is their child. Like, people sound slick. They say what they, oh man, I'll be this and that. But if it's your child and they really going through this type of turmoil, like, you are their first line of defense and usually they last line of defense. So it's like, even if you look at the LeBron James situation, like LeBron James stood up and was toe to toe with Stephen A. because of a take that Stephen A. gave, and Stephen A. he ain't. I wouldn't sit there and say he my favorite on-air personality, but he didn't say too much wrong outside of what everybody else was saying because I said it myself. Like LeBron James Jr., Bronny, at the time, like he wasn't performing at an NBA level. He was looking like it was too much for him. He was looking nervous. He was looking like he couldn't handle the spotlight. And he wasn't performing. He was averaging 0, 0, 0, 0 down the whole stat sheet. He wasn't shooting. He was getting a lot of turnovers. And it was just like, man, like, are we supposed to act like we don't see what's going on? But, as of late, I think he scored like 17 points or something like that. He been doing all right in the G League. So, but, the bottom line, LeBron James got in Stephen A. face. And like a situation like that, it ain't no fight. You ain't go overboard, but that type of confrontation can always lead to something else. I seen people get themselves hurt and killed in those same situations. You and somebody face talking reckless, and maybe that person don't want to be talked reckless to that day, and he say something to you, and next thing you know, you got to react because you felt slighted and he felt slighted, and next, like, you thought it was just going to be a conversation or you straightening somebody else, and it just went to another level. Stephen A. was a little bit more professional. He said he had some steaks on the grill. He had big-time contracts, and he was actually in there with some tycoons, some billionaires, and he didn't want to look like a savage. He didn't want to look uncivilized. Just to stand on 10 in front of LeBron James, who really, when I look at the situation, I don't agree with hardly nothing Stephen A. said. I think he a talking head for ESPN and people with money when they trying to get their points across, but I don't think he went overboard with Bronny. I think he handled that with kid's glove. And if you was to go to any barbershop and ask how LeBron was doing, man, people be like, man, you suck. He's stinking up the flow right now. So I ain't gonna sit here and say, Stephen A. said nothing wrong in that situation. And I ain't knocking LeBron James because he ain't do like Will Smith. He ain't haul off and smack the man in the face. He ain't push on the man. He just said, man, stop talking about my son. You don't want too far. I might have used some expletives, but he didn't go overboard. Sometimes you could go to the point of no return. He ain't go to that point. He just spoke his mind. And he ain't got no history of being egregious out here. He not no Antonio Brown or nothing like that. He ain't nobody who just, like, he ain't no Draymond Green or nothing like that, to where, he just going off the deep end all the time. So, I think Stephen A., he apologized, but then as he thought about it, as I would have, he kind of, oh, man, that man was dead wrong. And I got exactly where he was coming from because I've been in situations to where in the heat of the moment, you like, man, what's going on? But then when you think about it, you like, man, this man disrespected me, man. Man, you get to thinking about it, you wish you could have did something different. Sometimes you wish you would have snapped. You wish you would have snapped because you like, man, that man made me look crazy. Why he do that to me? Why he do that to me? But I was just pointing out to say that, like, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't defend their child? Who's to say that mother was wrong? She got a baby. That's her baby. And she see her baby she going through it right now. So when your baby going through it, as a parent, you got to come to the rescue. You got to come to the rescue. You got to. And, you see it time and time again. The week before, prior to that, I went around asking guys, like, would you defend your... Yes, I would. it was a majority consensus that people would defend their child. So, sometimes people say what they'll do, but that don't necessarily mean they would do that in the heat of the moment. That's just, that's just the civil thing to do. But, I've seen people defend their children and sometimes their child be dead wrong. But as a parent, if you're not protecting your kids, you're not stepping up to the plate for your kids, who will? And then I just went to the opposite end of the spectrum. I went to the opposite end of the spectrum and I looked at how 50 Cent doing his son. 50 Cent really ain't got nothing to do with this situation, but, it's way on the other end of the spectrum of where, 50 Cent's son is doing things that's against his father's, I say, stream of thought. He being a contrarian based on he probably was raised by his mama and 50 Cent won't eye to eye, so they split up. So he raised by the mama. So 50 Cent there, for lack of better words, and cut the young man off because he going other. And, whew, that's a tough one because, 50 Cent's son ain't no baby no more. But that is his son. He look just like him. So if you could forgive people that you beef with, why couldn't you, forgive your family? Because I even got family issues. We might not be seeing eye to eye, but there's definitely forgiveness in there. I still got compassion. I still care. It's still a level of humanity there. But, 50, I don't know if he do it for TV or for perception, but he go hard. He said, that's his mama shine. That ain't my boy no more. But he ain't no little boy no more. I think he like 25 or older, or maybe more. Might be like 28. So, he look a little, but he ain't no boy no more. He's a grown man. And sometimes when you grown and you do grown things, then you got to go ahead and deal with the repercussions. So, that's on the other end where he ain't making no excuses for his son. And he's holding him accountable. And you never know. The story ain't the chapter not closed on that. That's still an open book. So, I ain't want to talk too long, but I did want to get this out because, this was dealing with accountability. The girl, she did hit someone on the head with a baton. And as a result, it was a concussion. She had a concussion. And I think they were saying her head was swole up. And matter of fact, I got to get back to that. I wanted to look that up, but I ain't do no follow-up because I went and got a haircut today. Guess where I got my haircut today, y'all? At Elite's Pro Barber Shop right there on 368 Denby Boulevard. You got Eric. That's Big Nuke right there. He the one who cuts my hair. That's my barber right there. But then you got Ray in the second seat. And then in the back, you got Mook. That's Eric Jr., y'all. And they all in there, man. You could just walk in. You ain't got to have appointments like at some barbershops. You got to set up an appointment and you ain't there on time. And then you SOL. Then you got, matter of fact, I forgot to give Connie a shout out because you got Connie in the back doing hair. Braids by Connie Capri. So you know what? That's 368 Denby Boulevard, Elise Pro Barbershop, man. If y'all know anything and y'all in the Tower area, especially the Newport News area, uptown, close to Fort, use the Denby Boulevard area. That's 368 Denby Boulevard, man, where the vibes is all cool, TVs everywhere. And it's a nice barbershop. You can't miss it. It's right across from the 7-Eleven. So, I just wanted to get into that. Give y'all a little bit of something. But, like I was saying, I got another topic I want to deal with. I'm going to get into that. This week I talked to my sister, Julissa, that's Jewels. She up there, she doing good. Man, she living off well water, y'all. She taking it back to the essence. She said she trying to get some chickens. She got her own little house with her own little property going on. And she trying to get to the basics. She said she tired of living this modern life. She trying to take it back to the basics, where she growing her own food, raising her own food, her own chickens, and drinking well water. She tired of living this process life. I talked to her, let her know I love her. I gotta reach out, talk to my brother Haywood, and probably call my mom's up. Um, cause it's like family is all you got. And like I said, I got another topic, but I probably shoot down. I'm gonna hit that up tomorrow. That's a whole different situation. But like I was saying, you know, it wasn't no accountability. It wasn't no accountability. And when she hit that girl on the head, she's still young. So, you can't expect her to react or act in a proper fashion because she's still immature. She 18 or less. So, if she makes a mistake, you can still credit to her being young. Not saying she ain't old enough to know the difference and know how to do better, but it's a teachable moment. It's a teachable moment. So, when she hit that girl, she ain't had no accountability. She feel like everybody going against her. But sometimes you gotta take it on the chin and say, my bad. I apologize. I'm sorry. I done did it plenty of times and I swear you don't lose nothing. After you say I'm sorry, after you apologize, after you say my bad, life's still going on. You don't die. You don't lose nothing in that moment. People just sometimes when you go ahead and throw that out there, people be like, man, no, it ain't nothing. And you gain an ally, you gain a friend. But when you sit back and try to deny and defend and make it look like it ain't you, you get them enemies. People like, man, I know you didn't. That's because it's an insult. It's an insult like you playing on people's head. So, with that, I'm about to get up out of here. And what I probably do is put these two podcasts together and make one because somewhere in mid, I think I was like 20, 30 minutes in. I don't know. I was in the mixer and my audio gave out. So I'm about to be out of here. Again, y'all know what it is. It's the Let's Get To It podcast, and that's a tour with a you, because I always got you in mind. So if you don't mind, let me break it down for you, because you ain't never heard nothing like this before. And at the end of the day, it's all for you. It's really all for you. And y'all know I'm King Sound the Powerful, the biggest hater this side of Texas. I talk reckless. So if you want the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Matter of fact, y'all can't handle the truth. Court is adjourned. And I'm